Okay, let's take a look at the the definition, the basic concept. Probably not much question on that. Number two, numbers. We talked about converting the numbers. I'm gonna leave it up to you. Probably couple of questions on that. Doing the conversion and the bits and bytes, that sort of thing. So you should see at least a couple questions on that. Number three, let's click on number three. So number three, IP address. We talked about the type of IP address, classes. So expect to see a question on that. Dynamic IP, static IP. So all those important concepts. Let's click on the computer networks. Okay. So this one, the type of hardware, I might ask you questions on that. You can make like a different type of networks, basically based on the size. Okay, so you should know at least the different types of networks based on the size, and sometimes the coverage, the characteristics of coverage you should know, based on the topology, which means that configuration. That's stuff you should know. That's actually a very old, like a PCMCIA. Nobody uses that stuff anymore, so you can ignore that. Although you can get a USB, small. Everybody has a built-in. You should know what it looks like. The network card. We talked about that. If you don't know, look up the pictures of those routers, the hardware, the OSI models you should know, and the TCP/IP, of course, layers you should know, and Ethernet, showing the Ethernet. Okay, that's pretty much, I think, about it. Let me see. Detecting errors. We didn't discuss these stuff, so don't worry about this stuff. Okay, the next one, the wireless and the internet, kind of a little bit similar but different. This cellular communication. I told you that they use radio area networking, radio waves. The cellular means like a 1G, 2G, 3G, 5G stuff. And the wireless, meaning LAN, and including the cellular. Anything that's not wired, that would be wireless. Wi-Fi, that means LAN using Wi-Fi transmission. Okay. And we talked about the IEEE, the protocols. The 802.11 is the wireless Wi-Fi. 802.3, it will be the Ethernet. The 802 is entire, like that includes LAN, cellular, and everything. So it's kind of important to know, what you're talking about. You just have to look it up if you are not sure. Okay. And different type configuration, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. That's kind of showing you the example. This is a cellular where there's a baseband, and this will be the Wi-Fi. So this is the this you can consider as hotspot. Okay. Where it gives you the access to the internet. Okay, I think that's pretty much about it. Thanks to Hertz, we have wireless communication. Okay. Okay, ports, well-known ports. I told you that there are gonna be questions on the well-known ports. You just have to look it up. Internet protocol, the protocol suite. Pay attention to these the protocols. If I give you certain protocol, you should be able to tell me which layer that it belongs to. And we talked about connectionless and connection-oriented. That's probably only characteristics between TCP and UDP. That's what transport layer, UDP and TCP. So those each, kind of similar to we've7 model, functionality of each layer that you should know. Okay, so let's click on the internet protocol. Oh, we did that. Okay, let's take a look at the Internet Protocol Suite, which is the this one here. Okay, so it's kind of the same thing as the other one. The other one shows the TCP/IP addresses. This one shows the layers, the concept, and the kind of similar to OSA model that I told you about. We don't need to deal with all these type of stuff. Just the main thing in here, I would say, in here is the pay attention to these different types of the protocols and the each functions of each layer. Okay, that's probably the main thing in that section. Then let's go to the next one. The number 4, wireless networks and 5G. Okay, here I would pay attention to the a bandwidth, speed, any type of networks. You need to pay attention to the bandwidth or the speed, data rate, or similar stuff. Multiplexing technology terms, CDMA and DDMA, all this stuff. The concept of handoff, I told you the handoff meaning they are divided into cells. Cellular networks means divided into this coverage area, cells. Handoff means somebody traveling from one area to the other, and transition from one area to the other. That the concept is the handoff, and some other characteristics. Now I told you about the South Korea, different frequency ranges that we use. We discussed that. So, and then the wireless networks. I think we that one, the first one. Okay, and here are different characteristics of different type of wireless area networks. Okay, the coverage, the speed, and I would pay attention to 802, whatever the IEEE that protocol it uses, that type of things. Okay, so you wanna take a look at this. And let's look at number 5. Okay, so number 5, we talked about the radio spectrum, the radio different type of radio waves, and radio waves right here, different type of electromagnetic waves. These all these electromagnetic waves, and then the wavelength. So these are the frequency. This one doesn't tell you the size of the wavelength. The wavelength, I told you, is one of these links here. Has the wavelength. So in here, this kind of gives you a picture of the wavelength. So you should have some ideas about the wavelength. Which picture is that? If you go here, this one, this picture here, give you the size of the radio waves. So here, this one wavelength is about the building, human, and blah blah, small. Okay. And some other temperature. Probably we didn't talk that much about those characteristics. And then the frequency. Okay, let's click on the first one. And the next one, though, which one is radio? We talked about the, I told you the hertz, yeah. So long as you can do the calculation, that's cool. The second one, the radio communication, okay. So AM, FM, radio, cellular, all those stuff use radio waves. So these are the, like a picture of antennas showing the antenna used for radio communication. So these are the type of the waves that AM uses, the FM uses. AM is what the amplitude, what we call amplitude. The height uses a different, whereas FM, the wavelength is different. So this one, it uses amplitude. This one actually, the wavelength is alternating wavelength is, the wavelength is different. So in other words, it uses the differences in the wavelength for communication purposes, whereas AM uses amplitude for communication purposes. Okay, so everybody, if you ride in a car, your taxi drivers will use AM or FM radios. Those the kind of, then you know which one, what kind of waves that the radio uses. Not only that, the cellular communication, we talked about the type of waves that it uses for cell phones and cellular networks. Only thing that pretty much that you need to know is the frequency ranges. They're like a 5Gs and all these frequency ranges probably. And some characteristics about the ones at the table I showed you, the speed, the bandwidth, and type of multiplexing, all those stuff. Okay, so pretty much stuff that the other table used. The other table has those characteristics are in here too. Okay, and then the radio frequency IDs, number 6. Okay, so this one we talked about the surveillance, that not everything uses RFID, but different technologies that uses for surveillance, particularly these two types, EM and AM. Those are magnetic strips. So we talked about these characteristics. Really low, 8.2 radio frequency. That's really low. So this kind of stuff that you should pay attention, particularly like these type of tags and frequencies that uses. Yeah. So like AM. So if I ask a question on the AM, okay, and something close to the AM, such as 5.58 kilohertz, that's really low, right? Actually, they are not. Those we talked about electronic surveillance in here. Some of them uses radio frequency, but EM, AM, they don't use radio frequencies because their range is pretty low, as you can see. And when you look at these, you should take a look at these. Where's the other chart? These. So very low frequency, right? Those AM and EM. So they're not really radio waves, because radio spectrum goes from here, starts about 1 kilohertz to 100 gigahertz. Okay, so this chart is useful. Those waves are referred as the radio waves, whereas this one just very low frequencies waves. Okay, so those the electronic surveillance, those that can 1000 hertz, that's 1 kilohertz, so it's right below the radio waves. Okay, so EM, AM, they're not really radio waves. Whereas you can use a radio frequency ID system, kind of similar to EM, AM, but it costs a little bit more. Basically, they have different characteristics too. We talked about RFIDs. Those characteristics. RFID, some of them are chipless, some of them have chips, and the Some of them use ultra high, the read range, some of them have the power, the active versus passive, semi-passive. You should take a look at those, and the cost, and the reader characteristics, and we talked about the networking of those concepts. So all those stuff you should take a look at. So those stuff could be on the exam. So couple questions on this, plus couple questions. So I would say total, like, total security question, yeah. So those fairly maybe 3 to 4 questions, maybe regarding maybe including the security stuff, maybe five questions, maybe something related to RFID. Okay, the rest of them is Excel stuff, which I mentioned previously, so I'm not gonna go over those topics again. So VBA question, at least 2 questions, and the rest of them are kind of similar to stuff you did for the homework assignment. Okay, so I haven't graded your homework assignment, but I intend to grade them anyway. So other than that, if you have any questions, please ask me. I'll try to answer them on Friday, if you send me early enough. Okay, so you have a nice day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.